Welcome to Timberborn, the game where you play God to a beaver colony. A game where the threat of starvation, dehydration, and toxic waters are always just around the corner. In this playthrough, I'm going to attempt to beat the smallest map diorama on hard difficulty. Timberborn doesn't actually get beaten, so we'll have to create some win conditions. For this map, I think winning will be surviving until the longest drought is over, which is 28 to 30 days. If we can do this without our beavers dying, I'll consider this a win. As you'll see, I barely survive a few droughts and the colony almost gets flooded by the toxic bad water, so stay tuned. A brief explanation for those unfamiliar with this game. Beavers only need 3 things to survive: food, water, and shelter. We have to make sure we have enough of all 3 for the increasingly longer droughts. On top of that, we have to contend with bad water. Bad water will eventually come out of this clean water source, which will make our beavers sick, and they will die if they don't get treated. Treatment, by the way, is locked pretty deep into the game, so no swimming in the bad water. The bad water will also make the ground barren, killing anything that is growing in it. I think that's enough chatting. Let's get into it. So this is going to be 10 hours of gameplay footage compressed into hopefully about 13 minutes. So I'll just come back with some commentary whenever something interesting happens and fast forward to building. Enjoy. Cycle 1, day 3, and we're about to finish our first dam. There should be enough water to get us through the shorter droughts in the beginning of the game. Cycle 1, day 7, and we have a 4-day drought. As you can see, we've made some progress, have some farmland, a lumber mill operating on hydropower, which of course will pause during the drought. Here we are into the first drought, and the water level is really low, so we'll have to address that with more water storage so we don't have to pump water during the drought. One of the main resources in Timberborners is lumber, so we're going to build a forester now and plant some trees of our own. Cycle 2, and we already have our first brush with failure. I should have built more water storage during the wet season, but that's on me. With 3.5 days to go, our water source dries up. Now the crops will last for a few days without any water, and thankfully the beavers can survive a day or 2 without water. But you'll see their well-being score drop from a 4 into the red. With the water returning, it looks like we're going to survive this time. Next, I decided to do something about this bad water. I want to turn the lower part of the map into a reservoir, which means this bad water has to go. With the diversion in the first stage of the reservoir complete, all we can really do is hope that it works. And with that out of the way, our next big issue will be when the good water turns bad. We'll need to also divert this water off the map to avoid certain death. Well, that took some time, but it's finally done, and it looks like it's going to do the trick. I decided to do a quick test just to make sure. This got done just in time, by the way, as the next drought is actually the bad water season. Now this works for now, but it's not ideal, as we'll need this area as a reservoir for the increasingly longer droughts. So we go to the top of the mountain to try to divert the water over the edge, but that will require dynamite. And everything goes well until now. Until our reservoir runs dry with nearly 8 days left in the dry season. Fortunately, I saw this coming and added a water dump, and we barely edged by this one. Well, after barely surviving that, I think we'll be okay, as during that drought, I got the reservoir finished. Well, finished for now. We'll end up dynamiting this whole area out. Stay tuned for that. Speaking of dynamite, finally get to the top of the mountain. It's time to divert this bad water directly off the map. And with that going, we can also work on expanding our upper reservoir. And this expansion gets done just in time for the next bad tide, so we'll get to test it. Everything was going well. I even added 6 more beds because we had the food and water for more beavers. But I made a mistake, and it took me a while to figure it out. The beaver colony population started declining drastically. Usually this is because you don't have enough food or water, but there is another factor that I'd forgotten about, and that's downtime. I had moved our working hours to 24 hours a day, and this caused them to have no free time to do the new beaver dance at night. But I eventually figured out what was wrong and set it right, and the population grew back. Whether I was ready or not, it happened. Cycle 21, we get a 30-day drought. Now, surviving this was the win condition I had picked for myself, but I decided to expand it given what happens after this drought. By the way, I'm pretty new to this YouTube stuff, and I'm not afraid of constructive criticism, so be sure to let me know how you feel about this in the comments. As you can see here, I created a power system, which I'll finish up later. Also expanded our lower reservoir extensively. Stay tuned for the big boom boom. I even added battery backup. Even at the fastest speed, 30 days is a long time, so we'll skip to the end here. As you can see, the reservoir is dry by the end of the drought, and our water reserves are very low. but I'm upgrading the water pump system to an advanced one. And once I deepen the reservoir, I think we'll have nothing to worry about. And the drought ends and we have an astonishing 12 water and storage. And with the reservoir filling up, I'm feeling good about myself. But not for long. And that's because our next drought's a 28-day drought. Our food supplies had dwindled from 1,800 to 400 in the last drought, so I wasn't feeling too confident we'd have the food to survive. And if we don't survive, we're certainly not winning, so I had to let it play out. Given our food supplies had dwindled, we decided to add another food source, spatterdock, which is grown in the water, as you can see here. By the end of the drought, the water reservoirs had run dry, but we had enough water in storage to where I turned on the water dumps to try to keep the crops alive. And just like that, it was over. The reservoirs filled back up, with us having 0 water in reserve, and we survived. I decided to carry this gameplay on a little bit longer because I didn't feel like we would certainly survive any long droughts that continued coming. I wanted to get the battery power operational and the reservoir done, so here's that. And if you didn't know, the battery backup works by using the extra power produced by your power system, whether it's water or wind, to charge these gravity batteries. Then during the dry season, or when there's no wind, the batteries drop down, releasing their stored energy. And when the power comes back, they start filling up again using the excess power. With all the dynamite finally placed, we can proceed with our reservoir expansion. The reservoir fills up after this just in time for a bad water season. And that pretty much wraps up this video. There is a lot of stuff I didn't unlock in the game, but on this small map it's really not necessary. I can unlock things like robots to work in place of the beavers, and a few other cool things, which I'll do if I do this again on a bigger map. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and let me know what you think in the comments.